Hey tankers, and welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with PR154. And today we are following DaddyDaGOAT of the Daddy clan in his FV4005 Stage II. This is the Tier 10 British tank destroyer that, if you've ever been at Tier 8 or above, you would know all about that. It's the HESHbarn, it is the shitbarn, but it's also a vehicle that's almost demanded a slightly different playstyle since high explosive shells were reworked in the last in the version 1.13 patch. You notice his proportion of shells is a little bit higher on the AP. Now the AP rounds should not be sniffed at all. They still do something like 1150 hit points of damage and have 310 millimeters of penetration. So they still more than hold up in today's meta. But it is called the HESHbarn for a reason. He has the HESH loaded, and he's just waiting for that shot, waiting for that opportunity where he can unleash the raw destructive power of FV4005 Stage II. 1,650 alpha damage is typically done by this, is the average damage done by the HESH round. But of course, when RNG gives you plus or minus 25%, you can get a slight high roll, and in that case, he's just absolutely one-shotted that Stridsvarn 103. Has another. He's just got the standard AP round in the tube now. He's lined up on the object 140 and given it a tremendous repair roll of 960 hit points. Tracking shot as well there, so the friendly Grill A15 was just able to put the killing shot in and send it back to the garage. So it looks like DaddyDaGOAT has sort of cleared out the field. There's not too many shots of opportunity there, and you can see his teammates have sort of they've started to make their gains through the field as well there. So his team was a little bit more lightly distributed around the heavy line. So that's where you want to use. They're not terrible forward mobility of FV4005 Stage II to try to reposition it to where the gun can do its best work. And if you can be dropping an 1150 hit point alpha bomb on the enemy, that it's going to feel it. Like that's under normal circumstances at Tier 10, that's half a tank. And if you're in a Tier 8 game, of course, well that's easily sort of 2/3 of a tank. Even a whole tank in some cases. So the 4 enemy heavy tanks appear to have been concentrated in this area. We're playing a little bit cautiously, just waiting for them to pop out for now. That hasn't yielded too many results, unfortunately. So we can see the enemy still has some tank destroyers between the Object 268 and the Badger, the Grill A, of course, and so his teammates are sort of cautiously probing that line. You can see as DaddyDaGOAT has worked his way around, however, he's starting to find shots of opportunity on the tank destroyers that are evacuating that area. Perfect side shot on the Object 268, and he's able to knock that one out as well. So very nicely done there to DaddyDaGOAT. He's just taken his second kill of the game. We can see the enemy heavy tanks have made their appearance. They're wrapping up the Object 277, who's now on 8% hit points. Not a particularly healthy position. He's completely knocked out there. But the Leopard 1 soon joins him back in the garage thanks to a well-placed shot by DaddyDaGOAT there. So still quite a few enemy tanks down that corridor. If we look at the scores at the moment, this is sort of the older version 1.13 format, but they're sort of roughly equal on hit points. But DaddyDaGOAT's team has a distinct advantage in that it has 4 more guns in the game than the enemy team. And the thing about guns is the guns tend to do damage, and your chances of winning are highly exacerbated by just having more guns in the game than the other guy. I mean, the most effective way to survive a game is to reduce the enemy's hit points to 0, so that they can no longer influence your hit points in the direction of 0. Set up in a position of support here for the Progetto 65 against the Object 705A for now. Progetto 65 lands a hit but cops a 600 hit point penalty to its hit points from the Object 705A. There's probably a bit of a losing contest there. He's pushing forward, hoping he can catch a distracted enemy, which he does in the form of this enemy T110E5. He's able to land quite a potent hit to the lower frontal plate of the T110E5. Putting that in a position where the Grille once again was able to knock it out. So they're 4 tanks up, considerable advantage on hit points here. Very much in the cleanup phase of the game, although both friendly and enemy tanks are somewhat disjointed at this time, and they quickly lose 2 friendly tanks. So there are only 2 tanks up at this point in time. Fortunately, DaddyDaGOAT is able to reload a lot faster than the Object 705A, but the Badger rounds the corner, and with some of the most impressive damage per minute in World of Tanks, the Badger is able to knock DaddyDaGOAT out of the game, back to the garage. But that's all right. There's still 3 tanks up on the enemy team, probably double to 3 times the hit points at this point in time. So hopefully at this point in time, DaddyDaGOAT's just about come to his senses, and will jump to one of his teammates. But have a look at this damage. Over 7,000 hit points of damage inflicted on the enemy just by maneuvering and firing where his gun is needed most, in order to just drop those massive alpha bombs on the enemy team. And for his troubles, he's knocked out 4 enemy tanks as well. All right, we'll switch the camera over to the IS-7, who appears to have drawn a little bit of attention from DaddyDaGOAT. This is sort of one of those things that can be a little bit frustrating to see inside of World of Tanks, where you've got a vehicle that's pretty much intact on its hit points. The enemy has got almost nothing left in the tank, and in fact that TVP T5051 only had 25 hit points left, and Shimom 8 in the Grille 15 has just been able to come through and quickly knock it out. A bit of a risky play by the Grille as well, given that TVP 51 is an auto-loading vehicle. The Badger, however, is quite intact on nearly 1,500 hit points to go, but likely to attract crossfire from a couple of different directions. Something that the Badger is not particularly good at doing. All its armor is pretty well on the front, and even then only on the upper part of the vehicle. So a bit of a situational armor layout. That's why a lot of people don't really go for the Badger. But in this case, DaddyDaGOAT's team has been able to exploit that fact in the cleanup with the EBR 105 in particular, just doing the last of the hopping up. And that appears to be victory for DaddyDaGOAT's team. Let's have a look at the results. So a well-deserved mastery badge there for DaddyDaGOAT. He's picked up the high caliber medal as well, for accounting for at least 20% of the hit point pool of the enemy team. And how we touched on this earlier. He's accounted for nearly 7,300 hit points of the enemy team, and have sent 4 of them packing. He's also picked up a couple of these other badges of merit. Fire for effect, which needs no explanation under these circumstances, and of course the fighter medal. So the fighter medal is kind of the step before Top Gun, and that's where you destroy 4 to 5 enemy vehicles in a single battle. Having a look at the team scores, that's a well-deserved top placement by experience points, but he's not too far behind in the T100LT and the Panhard EBR 105, who they've had some very high damage games and have been able to cause a bit of spotting along the way, but of course nowhere near the awesome destructive power of DaddyDaGOAT in the FV4005 Stage II. And if you'd like to see one of your replays featured on World of Tanks with PR154, please give us a shout over Discord, or any of the links below, and we'll do our best to sort you out. In the meantime, take care out there.